like to call the February 5th, 2025 meeting of the Nevada City Public Arts Commission to order. And it looks like we have a quorum. So with that, I am going to call on Commissioner Ariellis. I knew I was going to butcher it, sorry.
You're all good.
Oh, I didn't ask for that.
We acknowledge that the Nisenan people are still here among us today, though nearly invisible. We understand that we are on Nisenan land that was never ceded, and the original tribal families have yet to recover from the near genocide of their people. As a resident or visitor in Nisenan land, we support the Nevada City Rancheria Nisenan tribe in efforts to stabilize their people, as well as their campaign to restore federal recognition.
Thank you. And if the commission could, audience would rise, I'd like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Am I supposed to call you Madam City Planner or Madam Deputy Clerk tonight? Could you please
Of course.
do a roll call vote?
Commissioner Arianes,
Here.
Commissioner Harney,
Present.
Commissioner Schwartz,
Here.
Commissioner Clark,
Here.
Commissioner Tudor, absent, Vice Chair Negrete,
Here.
Chair Wilcox Barnes.
Here. Thank you. So I would like to call on our city planner, Lisa McCandless, to do a presentation on our nameplates, please.
Absolutely. Bishop, would you like to join us? Right here. So as you all noticed, as you came in the room, we have our lovely nameplates. Bishop Randall is here. He's the artist and maker that designed and crafted these, and I just wanted to honor his work and let him speak to his process a little bit and let you guys make any comments.
Thank you and welcome.
Hey, thanks. Yeah, it was quite a treat to create these on your behalf. What would you like me to explain? Just the process?
Yeah, I would just love to hear your creative process and
Okay.
and how you make the glass etched like that.
Okay, yeah, I've been working glass for about 23 years. This project was a little bit outside my scope, which was a lot of fun, actually. Most of the work I make is in a torch called lamp working. So it's done while it's hot and manipulated while hot. A lot of this process was called cold working. A lot of grinding, sanding, polishing, sandblasting, and etching, combination of such. The motif is based around waters and rivers without end. The book by Gary Snyder and my teacher. So it's like a visual representation of our place. I first took the blocks of glass and had them sanded and shaped into cut, shaped, and then polished. And then I sandblasted the names and sandblasted the designs individually and was able to put the paint on as well through the process to get the names to stand out.
So beautiful.
Such a treat.
Can I
thank-
ask a question?
Yes, please.
When you said you took the blocks, what size of blocks of glass were you getting to start with? Like large sheets and you cut them down or
No,
blocks? Or?
luckily these came as they were in the shape they already were, and then I was able to grind them down and basically facet the different corners and edges on them. And once that was done, then I sandblasted the names in, and there's a stencil I use that covers it, and before I take the stencil off, I'm able to apply the paint that goes into the surface and gives it the black and the gold relief. After that, then I did the process on the front that looks a little bit like stone or topography, and then on the back, the river. And each one is individual. I use stencils for the name and the logo, but everything else is hand designed.
Okay.
They're really nice.
Make
Yeah,
sure
I
you
mean,
look at each other's
Yeah.
plaques.
Sorry, lawn.
Yeah.
Oh, where's
Yeah.
Bishop, they're so beautiful.
Oh,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
And I know firsthand from taking a workshop with you how challenging glasswork is. And I managed to do everything wrong and burn my fingers and drop everything. So,
Dangerous
yeah,
business.
it is. And you've done an incredible job. Thank you.
I'm really, proud and honored to have made these, and I think it's wonderful that we have this Arts Commission that's supporting local artists and starting to give us folks some opportunity to share what we do here.
So do we have any other
in the
comments
sp-
from the commission?
Yeah, in the spirit of just like us getting to know our local artists more, I'm curious kind of where you are at in your artistic career and like what you're working on and what you're thinking about making
Okay.
art in Nevada County right now.
Yeah, it's interesting. As a lot of us have noticed over the last 4 years, there's been a huge shift in the economy, and that's been the same for crafts. Where most of my work was going to individuals, now I'm focusing more on public art, corporate art, and other things because that has essentially dried up. One of the projects I'm excited about that I'm working on now is a commission possibly with the Nisenan tribe for a large 30 by 30 topographical map cast in glass. And this should be really interesting because it's quite large and it'll be three-dimensional, so the top would be flat and then the topography would be undercut, so you'd be looking through the piece into the land itself, which would give opportunity for shadow and light to play in it depending on whether it was a darker glass or more transparent, and interactive, something people can get close to and get into and have fun looking around.
I have a couple of questions also. How fragile is something that large? Like when you're making it, sometimes you touch it wrong, you hit it wrong and it breaks? Or if it's interactive and people are looking at it, is it pretty vandal-proof, I guess? I don't know what you'd call it.
Yeah, glass is sensitive, and during the process, it'll usually reveal any stress or tension in it and end up cracking. That happens quite a bit, and it's just part of the process. Once it's cold, once it's at room temperature, it's fairly stable. If somebody's to come up with a hammer or something like that, they're going to be able to take a chunk out of it. But these larger pieces are fairly durable. Like there was a few pieces done by the foundry that I'm a part of that did like 8 by 2 foot panels for the Waldorf Astoria recently that are architecturally implemented into the walls. So glass does have some wonderful properties where you can use it in ways that it will last a long time, similar to concrete.
Okay.
Where is your studio?
Up on the ridge, off of Tyler Foot Road. I live down Jackass Flats. Yeah.
Any other
Would you
questions?
maybe want to tell the commission about the poetry festival that's going to be happening up there?
Oh.
Just so that everyone can hear about that?
Sure. The last few years, I've been working with the Sierra Poetry Festival to put on a pop-up event called Poetic Crossings up on the ridge, which has highlighted the history of Gary and his contemporaries and the work that's been happening here for the last almost 50 years. This year, we believe Molly Fisk is going to be joining us, possibly Doc Dockler, and a few others. I don't know if people are familiar with Wang Ping. She's a poet, a professor and emeritus at Macalester College in Minneapolis, and she might be coming out to visit as well.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah.
What's the date?
April 19th.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, Bishop.
All right, and I'm going to also call on Lisa to do the next presentation about our Champ Gallery and
So just to be confusing, I'll take that one.
Oh, you're going to take that.
That way I can give credit where credit's due, because if Lisa says that she won't take credit for the work she did. So on January 22nd before our council meeting, we had the grand opening of the Champ Gallery outside. Many of you were here. Theme this go-around Year of the Neighborhood. Thank you so much to the commission for making the vision of, City Hall Art Meets the Public Gallery a reality. I know it sounded probably a little nebulous when we first started talking about it, but it's a really great space. I know it's small, but you picked a lot of great art and a lot of artists that have other pieces that will, I'm sure, come up in other themes as well. I really wanted to thank Lisa for working with our Public Works team to get the tracks out there. Thank you to Mira and Shannon for mentioning those and, making sure we got ahead of the game on those. I think everything out there is wonderful. Lisa's also responsible for the assistance of Bethany Celio, one of our other staff members, for as you come in the door there, the Champ Gallery signage. I think it's a great introduction. And thank you to Mira for being on the, I don't know what we called it, subcommittee, but for all your input and efforts in making that happen. And now it means that even though it's up there and it seems like it just happened last month, because it did, your next meeting, you'll be picking the theme for our May installation. We said we do it 3 times a year, so that means at your March meeting, you'll pick the theme. At your April meeting, you'll select the art, and we'll hang it in May. One other item to note is I had always intended this. I hadn't announced it because I didn't know how we would structure it, but the plan is to, when each installation closes, that we'll talk to all the artists that have their items and see if they're still interested in selling them. And if they are, then we'll select one of the pieces that didn't sell during its gallery time in the city. We'll purchase that, and then we'll have that displayed somewhere else in City Hall. And then probably sometime years down the road, we'll have a retrospective where we have each art piece from, each installation over a period of time. But that way we can, we can't buy them all, but at least we can, we can acquire one of them from each installation. Obviously, not all of them are for sale, but many of them are, and they're all amazing. So it'll be difficult to pick, but I'm sure one of the artists will say, yes, I'll still sell it to the city. So yeah, thank you to everybody that was involved in that. Council was very pleased. It was a great turnout from the community. We learned that 4 bottles of wine is not enough for the first 10 minutes of our gallery opening. And thank you to Supervisor Hall, District 1 Supervisor Hall, for coming, as well as the County CEO, Allison Lehman. So wonderful.
Yeah.
Great
Thanks
choices.
Thanks for coming to the gallery opening. That was really fun. And thanks for the liaison's help with the layout and the hanging. It took us longer than you would think. Same with the signage on the wall. The staff helped me, Bethany helped me a lot, and we tried to cut costs a little bit by installing the vinyl signage ourselves.
Oh, you guys did that yourself?
Yeah, we did it. And
That's tricky.
It took a little time, but we saved some money, so I was glad for that. And yeah, it all worked out great. Lon helped as well with the poster board sign. So yeah, Bethany's help was essential for me pulling it off and getting the words on the page and the designs put together. She's got some great graphic skills, so I'm so happy to have her and lean on her for that. So yeah, thank you so much.
How's it been? Are you seeing traction? Are people
Yeah, people are stopping by. After the opening, we had some other folks kind of wander in and just be like, oh, I was here the other night, but it was so crowded. Mm-hmm. And then once the social media posts went out, people were cruising in, and I never saw the press release. Did it go? I think we have had a pretty good showing of people just to come in and check it out. Yeah, and I also am happy with the engagement with the local arts community. hopefully it will generate a buzz of like, oh, exciting, like they're going to do another showing. So I think that went pretty well, and we had a significant amount of art pieces get submitted. So I'm thankful for that, as you guys saw.
It was a wonderful reception, and it looks great. And I was asked by several people who are local artists, how do we get stuff in here? I hate to say it, I'm saying contact the city planner. I don't know what else to say. So if that changes, let us know and we'll tell them.
Yeah, that's right. I would just say, yeah, contact them as soon as you are able to. The next exhibit's going to be in May, and we'll select the pieces the month before. So,
It's on the city website and it has this installation, and it'll have future ones. But the QR code and the link to put in interest for a next piece is static, so it'll be, people could be putting in interest or seeing what the previous iteration was about. And we'll add more content to that as we go. If you have any thoughts or comments or ideas on that too, we'd love to hear that as we try to refine it and make it better.
And I think the commission did a really wonderful job in selecting the pieces. And then when we didn't think they'd all fit in, but you guys managed to do it. And I thought it was really good balance to represent Year of the Neighborhood in lots of different ways that I wouldn't have thought would be, like the blackberries that are, and just, it was great.
Yeah, and that artist was actually surprisingly young. I was-
21, I think.
Yeah, I was very impressed. And I think we sold at least one piece, right, the first night? So it's supporting artists?
I think that
pieces?
one.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And then I also was hoping we could talk offline if anybody has ideas for making the selection process better, like how I did it at the meeting was sort of like, raise your hand. I have a couple more thoughts in my head, but if anybody has any specific suggestions or thought that was really cringy or something,
I
please
think we
reach out. and
did
we
a good
can
job
talk
for
it
like a
over.
first time.
Okay.
Would it be like
Diplomatic group.
inappropriate to have that like be
Offline?
automated and offline? Because I know we have to do everything in the public, but could it be like we could all vote right before the meeting? And it could be accounted during the meeting to save
Potentially.
time? Or-
Yeah, as long as you're doing it individually,
Yeah,
we
okay.
could explore
Yeah.
options for that kind of thing.
I think it's also good for you to sort of work together and come to the decisions together.
Now that we have a
There's
better idea too
value
of
in that.
kind of capacity and number that we're sort of shooting for, like if we get 150 submissions, we're shooting for
Yeah.
40 or something, so we can at least,
Yeah.
go from there, a working number.
At least know what to slim it down to.
Right, some general idea. I just want to acknowledge that Mira owned that process very hard and is really a very organized, disciplined person, and I learned a lot. And I feel really positive about the skills that I learn, and it makes me think as this group continues and we think about different mediums of events that we're producing, the skills that are here at this table and in the community and how we can cross-pollinate what we know here. It's really cool.
I would like to thank the subcommittee, Mira and Shannon and Nakaya, for stepping up and volunteering to take on that very first, big project so we could see
So much math.
how it can go from now on.
Yeah, thank you
Thank
both.
you.
It was definitely a team effort. I think we all bring different skills
Yeah.
and expertise to the table, so
Different skill
thanks
sets.
to everybody.
Working together, it's pretty good.
Mira gave an amazing speech without a script, from the heart, exactly on point to, the emotion of the room. It was wonderful. So if you didn't hear it, then come to the next one.
Some other commissioner will be giving the next speech.
So, moving on, we're at the point in the agenda where it's public comment time, and Government Code Section 54954.3 provides that any member of the public may address the commission on any matter that's not on the agenda, and that the matter is the subject, it's within the jurisdiction of the commission. And the Brown Act with limitations does not allow the commission or the staff to discuss the items brought forward during public comment. The commission cannot take action on non-agenda items, and concerns may be referred to staff or placed on a future agenda. And please note that comments from the public will also be taken on each agenda item as we get to it and can be heard at that time. So are there any members from the public that would like to address the commission at this time? We have the most members of the public we've had here in a long time. I was expecting, I see none. We will move on to our consent agenda, and all items that are on the consent agenda are considered to be routine in nature. And I just have to say, it's almost always just been our minutes. And will be approved by one motion unless there's a request to separate an item. Before we take action on the consent calendar, we'll hear any public comments on a consent calendar item only. So are there any comments from the public on our one consent item we have? Hearing none, I'm looking for a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar.
I move that we approve the consent calendar.
I second that.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. So I think we're going to move item number 2 down the agenda a little bit. The person that's presenting it couldn't make it here right at the start of our meeting, so we'll just move that down. We're not canceling it or putting it on another agenda. We'll just slide it down. So our next item that we have is a review of a special event proposal for art and nature installation and art and nature performances by the Bear Yuba Land Trust. And I know that someone is here representing the Bear Yuba Land Trust, and I believe that our Assistant City Manager, Lon Peterson, is also going to present this item to us.
Come on up, Annette. Awesome. That is, we were wondering,
Annette.
that is amazing.
Thank you all for having us. We really appreciate being here. Love that you're existing and around. Okay,
So, good evening, Lon Peterson, Assistant City Manager. I have the pleasure of introducing item number 3, which is, as you mentioned, the special event proposal for the art and nature installation and performances from the Bear Yuba Land Trust. And we have Annette Mueller, Communications Director, here to talk about that particular item before we ask your input for council. So with that being said, Annette?
yes, thank you all for having me. My name's Annette Mueller. I work with the Bear Yuba Land Trust and the Communications Manager. I was here about like a year ago, so I did get to meet some of you. So this is our art and nature installations. The Land Trust got a grant from Arts and Parks. It's an inaugural grant for a state grant to program arts in parks. And so we are programming along our trails and preserves. So there's some here in Nevada City, Grass Valley, but kind of county-wide, or at least not up mountain, but down here anyway. So one of our kind of the big projects for this grant is this project with Andres here out at Hirschman, and I'll let him kind of talk about how it came to be in a minute. But so the Land Trust is super behind this project. We have a staff who is going to be participating as well as volunteers, and I was out with both Dawn and Evan from the city yesterday, and they're also going to put some city dollars into helping clean up. But I'm going to let Andres start talking about how it came to be, and then I can kind of follow up.
Okay. All right. Totally unprepared. Sorry.
You're prepared.
So let's see. A couple of years ago, I was invited to be a participating artist in the Bear Yuba Land Trust Art on Trails. And I went, after visiting the various trails, the Hirschman's Pond trail had several possibilities. And the first one that struck me was this area that we're talking about now, that you've visited, which is a very overgrown and It was heavily affected by the epic snow, the winter a couple of years ago, and so there's many dead trees and many snags, and just it's a very anyway. I saw all this potential material for creating an artwork, and that wasn't able to happen that time. But when I reached out to the BYLT, they said there's a possibility this year. So then we started looking at that in earnest. Should I talk about the concept?
Yeah,
Okay.
talk about the concept.
So there's the way that I work, the way that I create my the art that I create is large scale in nature, and it's in nature, and it's generally meant to be impermanent. And so my process is when I get to a location, when I'm commissioned, I'll survey the location where the artwork is being proposed and see what am I working with, what's abundant, what feels appropriate to the location. So there's many considerations, but it's a dialogue with the location and with the materials that are there. I try to be minimally impactful to the location. I mean, it'll be altered to a degree, but my desire is that in the end, either if it's scattered or if it's just whatever remains there, that it will eventually fade back to what it was and you kind of wouldn't know. So in looking at that area, what immediately struck me was all the downed trees, or the trees that need to be felled because they're standing dead. And so that would be usable in some fashion. And what occurred to me was to create a type of meandering trail that would link the pasture or the little meadow. So it's the area past the pond when you go around the bend, and it kind of goes alongside the road for a bit, and then it comes down, crosses a meadow, and then rises again, and then it drops. So right next to that meadow, in that space next to it, the forested area, I conceived that there could be some kind of trail that would link the meadow to, and just kind of move through that forested area. And we brought in, who's?
Sean.
Sean, what's this?
So Sean Clark, so we have a city contract to manage Hirschman Trails. So we have a employee who does that work and works with volunteers to keep that trail nice and spiffy and clean. So Sean came out and met with us.
So in working with him, and we were considering the area, and then it occurred to me that, and we actually have a photo of.
I have a couple things. I'm going to send around the map, and it has the circle of the area, so you can kind of take a look, and then also a photo of a previous installation.
It's the same thing that's on your iPads, yeah. I think.
Oh, well, this one is a little
Same
bit.
picture.
I'll send that one around.
So this is similar to what I have in mind. That was, let's say, a quick,
We have that.
a sketch. Okay.
Yeah.
That I did on the previous property where I lived, and it was just taking the wood rounds that were meant for the fireplace and just started arranging them. So the idea would be similar to this, in that we would buck the logs into rounds, and there would be the concept, instead of a trail moving through the whole area, now it would be something more inspired by mycelium and the mycelial networks that exist linking the various parts of the forest there, the vegetation, the trees. So there's nodes in the mycelial network. There'll be nodes, and then there will be, just kind of these pathways. So there's kind of the concentrations, but it's all over the place. So it's more conceptual. It's the idea of the linking of various spots of the forest there, the stand. So the rounds then would form these little pathways between these nodes, and one node would be in the meadow, and then others would kind of be scattered into the forested area. The pathway or the connections would be thicker than this, so my thought would be it's thick enough that you could walk along it. So kids might like to, it would be a structure that you could walk along, because there's some very big trees in there. So we'd have some pretty big rounds to work with, and it would be several wide. And these nodes, I'm not sure how big they will be. It's, yeah, it'll be a work in progress. I mean, as we get there, we'll start figuring it out. And I think that's the basic idea. So one of the concepts then is that these will be creating platforms that are seating areas, so then it's penetrating into that area that is desperately needs cleaning up. It's definitely a fire hazard and safety hazard. So it'll be cleaning up that area. There'll be it'll get people into that stand off the trail, and then seating areas where they can, just enjoy the area. But also then, one thought is that these create seating area for performances that can happen either in the meadow or elsewhere. And also, ideally, if I can make it so that there's enclosed areas, and that can be space for other artwork to take place in future years. Okay, I think that about covers it.
Yeah, so when Andres pitched this to me, and I was like, oh, I run out there all the time, and I knew exactly what he was talking about. So we call it DDWD, down, dead, woody debris, and it's everywhere in this section, as Andres said. So over those 2-year bad winters, there's just like trees that are like hanging over the trail, a bunch of dead stuff. So for us, that's part of our work we do on that trail, is to kind of clean up the DDWD, and we work a lot with volunteers, and so this was an awesome way to kind of take that material that's already out there and do something with it, other than just leave it there. So that's kind of where it kind of like the practical side of it. And then we have this grant, as I said, to do this work, and also to sort of pay the artists to program the place-based performances that we'd like to do, which I can talk more about if you have specific questions. I can talk about it. And yeah. And like I said, so I was out with Don and Evan yesterday, and they were like, oh wow, this is pretty bad. And they're going to get some city team out there to help us take down the big ones and bucket up to do some of the work for you or for us. So anyway, yes.
So with that, do you have any questions?
Before we turn it to, unless we have a question for clarification, I'll open the public comment period. If there's anyone from the public that would like to comment on this. Seeing no one, we'll return it to the commission. And for comments or questions or anything?
I have a quick question. So is it going to be 100% using only materials that you find in that space, no outside materials brought to that area, or is it like it's just only going to be?
That's the intention. I haven't done something that people would be interacting with this way, and I would like to last for a while.
Yeah.
So possibly I would need to secure some of the outer rings, depending on what their size is and the location. So that's, yeah. But that would be it.
Can you also mention the work with Sal, the kids, the students?
Oh, so I've been in talks with Richard from SAIL, the principal there, to do some kind of nature-based artwork with their students. And as it turns out, the 9th graders, they do a project every spring where they're doing some work on Hirschman's Pond area, and so that will most likely be an opportunity to do collaboration.
We also see collaboration just with the community in general. We have our volunteer work days, but also working, I think we talked about having community out to like help you with the art project at particular times. Or,
I mean, it's usually it's not always so appropriate, but this is a perfect opportunity to have people help with the artwork, but also to just give some love to that area. I mean, it really needs it.
Any other?
Well, I just want to say that Andres' large-scale nature artworks are really incredible. Where can people find you if they want to check out your work on social media?
Well, it's my name, Andres Amador Arts. I think I should be attached to that.
Definitely check out his Instagram. It's really amazing.
Let me ask a question too. I've seen some of your work, and I'm just curious. I've always wondered: do you see it first and then you do it, or do you like get an aerial? Because they're very beautiful aerially too. Like when you get them from far away, I'm just curious how you come up with the ideas.
Well, it does depend sometimes. So a lot of my work can only be seen from the sky. And so they had to be done near cliffs, or then once the drones came out, then I was able to actually, because I've been doing this for about 20 years. When the drones came out, I was finally able to see. And so then I had the opportunity to take photos of a location and then actually draw on the photo on my iPad. So that sometimes can happen, but in this case it can't. It's
Right.
purely just in my head. And I'm just, going with an idea that seems appropriate. So it's really going to take formation
As you're doing
when
it.
it's happening, yeah.
Fun.
Well, I know in the past, I'm not sure if it's part of your Art on the Trail, but it's been Art on the Trail, the big bird nest that was on Wildflower Ridge last year was incredible. So everything I've seen that Bear Yuba Land Trust maybe has done has been incredible. I do have one, we're supposed to comment, make for consideration for the city council. And one of the things you said was, maybe doing some performances in our staff report said possibly evening performances. And I have a concern about how you would get people there after dark safely.
So we're looking in June, the longest days of the year, so definitely not dark times. I just mean like hopefully after work times, like 5 o'clock. We just want the majority, the people to be able to come, so, not at like, 10 a.m. or something on a Tuesday.
That was my only concern.
But yeah, definitely
when I
nothing
read-
in the dark, no.
When I read that, the
But
risk manager in me goes, oh, no.
But yeah, I would love, because the performance piece is very new. We've done the art and nature installation piece, but the kind of this place-based idea of performances. So we haven't done, so I'd love kind of feedback, comments, questions about it. That whole part honestly isn't quite flushed out, other than we have funding to program artists to do it. And definitely we're seeing it, very also of nature, so we're not bringing in stages or sound systems or anything like that, but very artist driven. So kind of like, here's the site of like artist vision for what they would want to see. And then again, like the seating would be, bring your own chair or sit on the platforms that are part of the artwork kind of thing. So, yeah, but again, we haven't done this yet.
Well, I
ever.
think, I love the performance aspect of it. Don't get me wrong, it was just when I read that in the evening, and I'm thinking dark flashlight on the trail and having walked that trail a lot.
Yeah.
But, that might be our presentation that we kind of slid down our agenda is a poetry pub crawl, and maybe there would be a performance, poetry performance in the, on
I
the
will
wood.
probably be back here in front of you all too, because like I said, we have this whole grand program throughout the year, and there's many things planned: poetry on preserves, music and meadows, the art and nature installations beyond just this one. So we have like a bunch of things happening, as Myra. So our partners in this are Chirp, Nevada County Arts Council, and Neighborhood Center of the Arts, and so we're working with people in those organizations to, program, so they have like input as well. So we have because we're a small organization, but we're trying to do a lot of stuff. So very excited, and yes, there's opportunities for poetry. I was listening to the other gentleman talk about it. So we're hopefully looking to partner with the Sierra Poetry Festival as well to do things. We're trying to partner with people who are already doing things, and so that we're spreading the money around. The idea is we're to spread the money around to organizations and artists. Like that's what we're here for. That's what we're doing. That's
Great.
the whole plan.
Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, I would just say there's such a big appetite for art in non-traditional places and kind of a lack of infrastructure to support it. So I don't think you'll have any problem like linking up with theater, music, poets. And I would say like recipients of the Nevada County Arts Council, California Creative Corps grants, who already were working with like all types of communities throughout the county would be a great place to start. I'm really excited about that. And I'm happy you are here, and I live on the Cascade Canal where those interpretive signs just went up that are bilingual and beautiful and so cool and just encouraging people to be out. And I just really want to congratulate you and like celebrate that work because I think it's really powerful and it's just great to watch all of the integration of so many gifts in town.
Wonderful, thank you, I appreciate that. We're actually doing a poetry installation on Cascade Canal in Woodpecker, so yeah, there's so much. So anyway.
I have a
No,
question.
just-
When are you looking at building it?
Well, I think so. It was talking to the city, getting it out there, this meeting, and then getting approval from the full council. And then I just need to let Evan know and Sean, my coworker, know so we can start the process of getting those big trees down and start cleaning it up so that the process of the art, well, I guess that's still part of the process, but could happen. So
We were looking at March.
yeah, March, probably March. And then June would be when the performances were, like early June.
How long do you think it'll take to build it?
I'm thinking once the actual construction of the installation, perhaps a week. But that, I might be off on that. There might be more, because I'm working with an irregular surface, you know, I'll be digging it in and I'm sure it'd probably take longer than I think. But that's what I'm trying to do. And then there's a lot of cleanup to do as well. So that
There's a lot
whole
of
process the whole process in entirety will take several weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then I have a question for our assistant city manager. Do you need a formal motion from us to take it to the city council?
No, we don't need a motion, but just any input that you have for consideration that you want the council to hear. So I took notes. of what you
Lisa's
said.
captured our input.
If there's anybody else has anything that you want council to consider, please let me know.
Can I, add something? Also the idea is that it would stay standing until it disintegrated. So that's something to consider too, that it would, the idea is it would just be there, so.
I just personally want to say that I love this idea, and I feel like it's perfect for Nevada County and everything that Nevada County stands for in the style of art that it is and what you're using. And I just want to say thank you for bringing this to us.
I think the part about leaving it till it disintegrates or something would have to be left to the council and to our public works supervisor or some, I mean, I'm not sure. It might reach a point where they have to take it out because it's not safe or something, but I think that's beyond our purview here tonight. We all like your idea, so.
I would just, lastly, like, with that in mind about longevity, like emphasizing versatility of scale, I think could be really cool. And, you know, not just like a poet in the round or like a guitar player in the round. I'm just thinking, you know, Lyric Rose is doing Midsummer Night's Dream right now. I'm not saying it would need to accommodate 12 players on stage, but like that's the kind of thing that people are constantly like, how do we find a space this size where we could get 30 people standing around and watching something? And I think, yeah.
No, I love that
like
idea.
that's what people are already seeking, so
No, that's
something for
that's awesome,
consideration.
yeah. And again, just want to emphasize that there is funding to pay these artists, so we're not doing anything without paying artists, so.
Yeah,
Hey,
yeah, it's such
Thank you
a
very
wonderful
much for-
project. Yeah, I'm so pleased that you received that grant and funding.
Thanks for all the support. Yeah, we had a lot of support from others in the community, so.
thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you both.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Before we move on to the next item, I'm going to ask if anyone is here representing the Poetry Pub Crawl yet.
Mike Lynn's here.
So I figure we'll go back to item number 2 now. And this, I believe Lon will also be presenting this to us.
Indeed. Yep, thank you. So I have the pleasure of presenting the special event proposal for the Poetry Pub Crawl, which is brought to you by the Nevada County Arts Council. And we have Michael Lynn here tonight to make the presentation before we have feedback to the city council. With that,
Great.
turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Lon.
You're welcome.
I'm Michael, and I know most of you all. I work for Nevada County Arts Council. Sorry, my notes are on my phone. So part of the Sierra Poetry Festival is we have the Fringe that starts on March 21st, which is World Poetry Day, and goes through April, National Poetry Month and Arts, Culture, Creativity Month, among other things. So this year, the Literary Committee thought it would be fun to do something a little bit bigger, so we came up with a pub crawl. I've never been to one, so I don't know why I'm taking the lead on this. So it's not your typical crawl. The working title is Choose Your Own Adventure. And so I have 7 venues confirmed right now, 1 waiting to hear back from, being the Stonehouse Nevada City Winery, Zabo, Three Forks, Steer Creek, the National Brew House, and waiting to hear back from the Fern. And tell me if I need to slow down, I just drank some coffee. So my idea is we'll have a poet or a collection of poets in place at each venue. They'll be leading readings, Q&A, or mini workshops for about 20 minutes. There'll be like a 10-minute passing period, and then again with the same presentation. So out of the 8 venues, there will be 4 time slots, 4 o'clock, 4:30, 5:30. So the attendees get to choose of those 8 what 4 they want to go to. And then the event has expanded a little bit. The Stonehouse has offered to let us continue using their venue, and so then there'll be like a wrap-up party, which is also serving as the West County passing of the laurels for our new poet laureate, whom I cannot announce yet. I thought that would help get around the like, go drink a beer, have a wine, have a cocktail, have another beer, have a wine. Like, it just seems a little sloppy, and so I want people to have time to enjoy the poetry and be hungry for more instead of being concerned about the beverages. Great. Questions? It's from 4 to 6.
I have
Any
a question.
questions about clarifications? Okay.
Yeah.
So is it, to join the pub crawl, do you have to pay beforehand to get in, or is it just anyone can walk in and?
Yeah, it's a free event. We try to have as much of the Fringe free as possible. We're asking that, people patron the location that we're at.
Of course.
And it's really more of a fundraising and awareness campaign for the main stage event of the Sierra Poetry Festival.
Perfect, thank you.
Are you looking for input on programming, poets, venues, or is that all covered?
I got it all.
You got it all?
Thank you.
Okay.
So at this point, I'll open the public hearing. Being nobody coming forward, we'll close the public hearing and now get back to the commission's comments. We're recommending this for consideration to the city council, so this would be the time for us to put in any comments we have about it or whatever. So anyone have something to?
Sounds great.
I'm excited for it. I
Awesome.
go just every year.
Cool.
I don't want to give you comments if you don't want comments.
I mean, I'm open.
I think it is so cool. I think it's a lot. I feel like it's very ambitious in terms of number of venues and participants. And that's all I would say. I feel like if there's flexibility in kind of distilling the programming down, you might have, it could be more successful. And I also just wonder if, kind of consolidating the opportunity means that like people are like traveling together and like creating that camaraderie that might make the experience more meaningful. But in any case, I totally am for it. And it's like film festivals are so confusing and hard to know how to get around.
I have a map. My idea is that there's going to be a map with the key for what poet will be where and if they're doing a reading or a workshop and the times that that'll be happening, and then people can choose their own adventure.
Well, I think it's a Great idea, and I'm looking forward to it. I don't know about the pub crawling part, but poetry, I've said at this commission before, I don't have any artistic bone in my body as far as drawing anything, but writing, I believe, is, you paint with your words, so I do believe it's a true art form. I have one question of staff, and just to clarify in my brain, why, as a Public Arts Commission, is it because they're going from place to place, they're inside private businesses? Where does our
What's our
authority come in?
It's a special event application.
Okay.
Because they're, traversing the sidewalks and
Okay.
things like that so that way, we asked them the Arts Council to do that. Michael Lynn's been great in meeting with us and doing those kind of things. It's a little unconventional, but if we didn't do it this way, one, we don't get to announce it to the public and share it with all of you. And
No,
two, we run the risk that somebody else will book,
Yeah.
something else using those same sidewalks during that time, and then it kind of takes away that opportunity.
Yeah.
So anything that is going to come forward as a special event application that involves art, the council's going to want to hear from you. And
Okay.
it doesn't have to be grandiose. It could just be, sounds good.
I
But
think
more
it's,
input, the better. So.
I think it's great that we're hearing it. I was just trying to figure out, because I was wondering, well, maybe they're going to have a poet on a corner here or two that are going to be reading and sending them down to the next venue or
Don't
something.
give
and
me
they're-
any ideas.
They're all actually out in the public.
typewriters.
But I think it's a great idea.
That's for the
so-
art walk.
Yes.
Any other?
Yeah, on that note, I just want to add, like, in the future, keep Ubaseyu in mind as a venue option, especially if you're looking for somewhere quiet for something like poetry that has a lot of space. As long as we can find some way to weave it in with the tribe, make it indigenous poetry themed.
I mean, do you want to
can
add
make
an
it-
event to the Fringe?
We're open to it.
Okay.
I've discussed it with the tribal council
Cool.
spokesperson. So if you
Awesome.
wanted to make it like we're reading native indigenous poetry, there are tribal members who have poems they'd be willing to read. We could do something like that.
Yes.
So,
We'll talk.
So, do you have enough input from us to take it to the council?
So just to clarify too on this, I think it's great. So it's like you can have questions or feedback and collaborate on different ideas, but I'd still be looking for feedback that I will be, when I bring this item to council, providing that like they all collectively thought it was great, or there was comments which I had on some of the other items. So
Okay.
I think this is awesome. It's like you're getting that collaboration, but
Okay.
also feedback to council.
Great.
And I am just curious, in terms of the venues during those 2 hours, will they be open to the public also?
We just have some corners set aside, like the National has very kindly offered us that beautiful gold couch upstairs. And I think Brew House, we're going to have that game area that they have. Yeah.
So
But the-
does that mean, like at the National, if you're upstairs in that couch area, is it also, I don't know if it's really going to be called pub crawl, but I mean, is it something where people, there's a bar for them to go to, or is the idea more that these are just the venues that they go to hear the poetry versus they're actually buying a drink?
I mean, part of the idea and why we picked a little bit earlier in the afternoon was to bring more business to these downtown venues. And, I mean, National specifically, I think they're going to open the upstairs bar for us and staff that, so that the people that want to hear the poetry can buy a drink and not have to go downstairs. I'm not sure if I'm fully
Right.
answering your question, but
Because it's like a 20-minute, they'll be there for 20 minutes,
Yeah.
right, before they
Yeah.
go.
I'm
Any
sure
other
it'll
input?
be a little looser than that, but.
Good luck with your planning. Looking
Thank you.
forward to it.
Awesome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
And now we're all the bouncing ball. We're going down to item number 4 on the agenda, which is consideration of a possible public art project on the site of the Broad Street Y project. And I believe both Sean and Lisa are going to be presenting this.
Sure, we'll tag team it. So the Broad Street Y road reconstruction project, We did some of the utility work and some of the street work late last year. We've been off the street for a little while now. This comes on the heels of the undergrounding efforts that went along there. Principally, this goes from the corner or the Y intersection of Commercial and Broad Street and goes up Broad and takes it through the intersection of, or the Y again, at West and East Broad. In the middle of that Y is the Aaron Sargent home, and part of this project it'll do reconstruction of the road, it'll adjust the camber of the street. I don't know if you've ever stepped off the sidewalk there. It goes like this. So that's because over the years, they've just basically added asphalt, and as you do that, it kind of creates a much bigger hump along the way. There'll be adjustments for sidewalks and railing, there'll be crosswalks, there'll be purpose-made bus stop. There's a bus stop at Bennett and Broad Street that they just stop in a parking spot now and often don't get access to the street, and that's actually a pretty well-used spot. So that's all part of that project. As part of that project, there's going to be a seating area in that Y. As you know now, if you're coming down East Broad, the stop sign is at the Y, it's at the end of the property. If you're coming down West Broad, it's well past that Y, almost to Bennett Street, basically past the Broad Street in there. So they're offset from each other. So if you're in one, you can look and see. If you're in the other one, you can't see if anybody's coming. They'll be aligned at the same spot. So everyone coming downhill could look at each other and know. That alignment makes that V in between the two an open space that across the crosswalk from either side, from East and West Broad, will access. It'll be kind of an opening of that area. It'll have curb returns, and it's contemplated for seating. We haven't done the seating, but Lisa put in the staff report. I think you put pictures of the seating that we have on the Commercial Street project.
I should have, but I didn't.
I thought you did. Maybe I imagined that, but so we have black seating on Commercial Street that went through a lot of processes to get there. But in concept, you could have something like that up there, and it is ripe opportunity for art. In the future, when you see projects come through, by the time they're at design, they're going to come to the Public Arts Commission to consider what art might be included at the design phase. This has been contemplated for a very long time, so it's getting to you a little bit late, but we did a workshop with the community to refine the design and took that back to the council, and with the refined design, now it's coming to you. We don't anticipate that an art project there would interfere with the construction project, so it's less of a big deal with that, but some considerations there. It's not in the historical district, but it's close. Most of the project is adjacent to the historical district. The actual Y there is not, but that house is listed on the National Registry of Historic Places as several buildings are along the path there. So it has a unique place, right? So it has historic relevance. It's not in the historic district. You know, we really would love to hear from you, thoughts about opportunities for public art there. It does not have to be decided tonight at the point, but if you had some consensus about an idea of the, you know, size or location or theme of what might be there, once you get to that point, at this meeting or future meetings, we'll eventually take it back to the council and say, this is what the Public Arts Commission would like to explore. They'll say yes, we'll get some budget allocated to it, and then we'll bring it back to you to kind of work up a process of what the final product would be. We did list in your staff report 2 options that are not intended to coerce you into choosing them, but just to give you an idea of something that kind of falls in that, you know, recognizing its unique space. And so one is, you know, a temporal representation, whether it be a clock, a sundial, a thing like that, that represents, you know, prehistory, history, and current of the location. Clocks are, all over the place in art, and that could fit. It could be tall, wide, flat, whatever you want. That's just an example. Another example would be the Atlas cedar tree that once inhabited the space where the sidewalk on West Broad will terminate right in front of the Broad Street in an art piece that was an homage or something to that tree, and could also represent prehistory, history, and modern times, in that the city does have rounds of that tree in its possession, so that could potentially be used in that art piece. So those are just two examples of, just like to get the juices flowing on what's practical or impractical there. What's impractical there is a tall 35-foot statue. I'll say 36-foot. You can't build a 36-foot anything in this town, regardless of what district you're in. Also, what would be impractical there is there's not anticipated to be power or water at the site. So it's not really a good site for a water feature or anything like that. The only water feature we have in town is it's in the wrong spot too, in the park. So when we do come across that project, we've got to find the right place for it. But so we'd love to hear your thoughts, input, and then hopefully next steps. If you coalesce around something tonight, great. And if you don't, we can bring it back to you with, if you want us to explore things or bring you back exemplars of different things, we can, bring that back at future meetings. So.
Okay.
Is it all kind of just up in the air right now?
Yeah, there's nothing other than, should there be art there, and if so, what should it be?
I'll just clarify one thing too, that I believe the Sargent House isn't the one that's
It's not,
directly
yeah.
ahead of the Y.
It's on your
It's
left-hand
actually on
side,
the
just
left
before Bennett.
With the big lot with the kind of open space next to it. And then I don't know, forgive me for not researching it ahead of time. There's a strong possibility that the other house is on the National Registry.
I believe they did put that one on, but
Yeah, I don't-
the city didn't. I believe it was put on at the request of the property owner.
Okay,
of that
yeah, and then
house.
just as a reminder, public art projects will come to you if we get development proposals. So similarly to that, since we're doing a city project, we wanted to bring the possibility of including public art as it is a project. So we don't have any developers coming through right now, but this is a great opportunity for a piece that fits in that sort of spot where we're going to try to activate it and put some benches there. And I will add that we just don't want it to, detract from the beauty of that building at the top of the street. So in your staff report, there is a Google Street View of the location. That's the sunny day, and then my rainy day picture is
So
below that. Yeah, and I think we've all parked there. We know the challenges. You can see the street in disrepair. And Brian, our city engineer, put a lot of work into the design and talking to every neighbor along both sides of the street, and held public workshops and things. So it's going to be a really great project that's going to construction this spring. It's exciting.
Congratulations. Yeah.
Before we start commenting on it, most of our public has left, but we have one person sitting out there still. I'll open the public comment period. Okay, we'll close it. Now we can return it to the commission for comments and whatever you'd like. So it looks like Shannon's ready to go.
No, I'm just
Okay.
driving.
I'm curious, whatever happened to the Sale student project?
Yeah, the one
That
that
was in a
supposed to
similar
go
location, is that
there.
bye-bye? Or is
They were wanting to do something with that sliver
Yeah.
that is the
Yeah.
former site of that Atlas Cedar, and it was going to originally be part of like a fire fuels mitigation that they were gonna do there, and then a separate class was gonna take on art. neither of which ended up being something that the school ended up doing with the programming. They are doing
Yeah.
those activities, they're just not deciding to do them there. So
Oh,
they,
okay.
more recently, Lisa was on a panel with, for their presentation on land use planning, and they chose the old airport for that location. So they're still doing
Okay.
stuff in the city.
All
They
right.
just
Okay.
chose not to use that
Yeah.
location, which would have been cool too.
Yeah, I'm curious, like, in your preliminary conversations with the community, like, was there a consensus around theme and like what generally people were wanting to see? Like, my concern is like with what happened with our mural project, that it's gonna become contentious. Like, let's early on get input from a diverse array of people that live here locally around like what feels representative to you as a community, so we don't need to fight about it and it can happen.
So there was no, discussion of this.
Okay.
That was not part of the outreach.
All
We
right.
certainly could replicate.
I would be curious to see that before we like select
Spend
a
time.
theme and before we do a call to artists, we see what does the community want to see here. And my one recommendation would be not another mining monument, but something that represents the diverse history and culture of this place outside of that, so we can see a narrative that balances out that which is already present here in the downtown area.
There's so much mining stuff
There is.
here already that we just
It's
don't need
tired.
to add anymore.
We can see something different.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I know there's a map here, but I don't understand it. So I'm looking at this. Can you see? what I'm-
Yes.
Where will the triangle be this, like the stop?
Yes.
Will this stop sign will come
Basically,
up
the
here?
picket fence, the white
Okay.
picket fence, coming down to a V.
Okay,
Like that, right?
Yep.
okay. And I'm assuming you said not 36, but probably not very high at all because you don't want to block visibility from either of those cars that need to see.
Or from the house, or
from the
visibility of the house.
house.
It's a
Okay.
highly, and
So probably
thank you, Lisa, for
fence
correcting me.
height and, or lower, like
Yeah.
guessing. Okay, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
I like that house better than the Aaron Sargent house, by the way, but that's just my personal opinion. I have a thing for turrets or witches hats or, anything that has like, peaks on the.
well, it's got a better history too, as far as if you're into ghosts and ghost hunting and all that. And the Sargent house really wasn't inhabited by the Sargents, but that's a different, whole nother story.
Just like
I-
he's not buried in his tomb
In
at
his
the
tomb up
cemetery.
there. But
How would you like to receive that public input? What are you thinking there?
I mean, I don't know, maybe it's a forum here, maybe we ask for more public, like written public comment, maybe there's a
Online-
survey. I don't know.
online
Yeah, that we
survey.
can review, but just get it out broadly.
Yeah.
I
And-
think
We could definitely do a
Article on
workshop
Ubinet or-
if we wanted. That'd be cool, first public arts workshop.
That would be great. It's just so people even know that they can weigh in on it, so it's not just one perspective, like, so that there's, lots of people can weigh in on it before we start talking about it.
Something in Ubinet, on Ubinet and in the Union. But I have one or two just comments in general. And no matter how much we try to change or regulate people's driving patterns, habits, they're still going to go up there and try to and do a U-turn.
Yes.
And that's fine for little old grandma me driving in my car that's not going to go up and over curbs or sidewalks or whatever, but a big, huge pickup truck might not care what art is there and whack it. So I think whatever we consider needs to, the traffic patterns and where it might be located so it wouldn't be, and is this a possibility, and to even think about is putting something actually in the street, flush, an art project that's rather than sticking up where it's going to block visibility of people seeing the cars or pedestrians.
Like a mosaic
Something
in
like
the
a
ground.
mosaic or something in the street that's the art project.
So that's absolutely a possibility, and I'm not trying to shoot you down in any way, but something to consider in anything you do like that. Number one is are you attracting people to walk into the street to look at it? And there's certainly things, where I worked down south was on Route 66, and we had really cool Route 66 art in the middle of the street, but it wasn't intended for that. It was intended to see as you were driving by, right? In fact, it didn't look good when you got up close to it because it wasn't intended for that view. But the other thing that we've discussed, and Brian has gone over at length, and the council talked about in this design, is those crosswalks will have a pretty profound offset of color because the black of the asphalt and then the concrete will be white. Our typical concrete that we pour is like what you see at the National. We call it National Gray. It's actually a gray, pretty dark gray concrete. We can't use that here because it doesn't give you the offset for the crosswalk, so they can kind of see the difference there. But then when you add to that, as soon as we put anything down, people drive over it, it's black marked over all the top of it. So absolutely possible. There's just more considerations that you'd have to include as to how pedestrians interact with it and what the tire smudging would do. But yeah, all things are available on the table for this artwork. To your point of the potential U-turns, if you looked at the diagram that's in there, the crosswalk it looks like it's, made out of bricks, and then there's an open space that goes up the V. Past that, there's a white area that says proposed benches. There's a curb return in front of those proposed benches, so that's where the art would likely be, because then it's also protected from U-turns and that kind of thing. So it would, both the benches and the art would live in that space that is slightly elevated and not as subject to crazy drivers.
Well, if they're going to go use the benches, they're obviously going to be walking there, but this might be the perfect place instead of doing the new traditional crosswalks, is to put something that is, like through the history, starting with the Nissinon and working up, timeline through history and art piece, I don't know, but something that's
Cool idea.
the the crosswalk.
So the crosswalk will be done before you get to your proposal, so that's just something else to think about.
And will all this asphalt still be there, or is that gonna be all changed because the infrastructure is gonna?
All new.
Okay, okay,
Yep.
okay.
Is there gonna be anything on the actual V where people would be like hanging out? Is there gonna be anything to protect them from the street? Because people do drive super crazy on right there.
Yeah,
So that's like the only thing.
sitting there having your
You're all sharing
sandwich.
screens.
So that's the part where it shows that the benches are, that's an elevated portion. The rest of it is essentially a V extending from the crosswalk. It's essentially a
So
portion of the
this is-
crosswalk.
That's the only.
So it's
part.
at street grade.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So here, if you see, you're talking about the
Thank you.
curb return being here, right, Sean?
No, at the top, in the
Oh,
white.
here,
Yeah.
okay, so this will be pavers of sorts, and then
It's
this will be.
concrete with the paver stamping, yeah.
And then like
Okay, that's much
ideally
safer.
art would be like up there.
Where the benches are in that white space
Okay.
would be the seating and the art.
Okay.
Okay.
I want to get like, at the Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk, they have like the cavemen who sit on the like trolleys as they go across. We could just like get people like just sitting on the benches. That's my vote, and I'm sticking to it.
It's about, that space that you see in the white there is about 12 feet deep and about 20 feet wide.
Oh, wow.
That's substantial.
So if you look at like the East Broad side, the left lane of it is 12 feet wide. So
Cool.
it's bigger than it looks on the
Yeah.
dimensionally.
Any other comments, or?
I guess just like point of process, right? So we have a kind of a collective feeling about how the mural went down, and we learned some lessons about that, and how we would avoid spending unnecessary time in the future is that we would have public comment so that we would kind of have like our opinion bolstered by some community feedback. Great. And then the second piece is that I think the mechanism is that we're referring things up to the planning commission, who are then referring things to council, or
On public property, it goes to the council and doesn't go to the planning commission.
Okay.
Okay, so this is a little different. Okay. I was just thinking, like, would it make sense to do like a collaborative planning commission thing, but we don't need them. Yeah, I'm curious, like, what recommendations would you have? How do we keep it like low maintenance enough that it's feasible and time sensitive and stuff?
I think a noticed workshop, it could be at your next meeting, but we would do a press release and invite the public
Okay.
and put in that press release pictures and graphics and, we're looking for this thing and please come and join us. And if you can't join us, you could fill out the survey or you could provide public comment.
Okay, that's
Invite
great.
you down to the meeting and then we can have all that information for you and
Sounds good.
then I would encourage all of you to
Tell your friends.
not risk your life and go walk out there now, but at least walk up on the sidewalk and take a look at what we're talking about, so that you have a kind of a better understanding of the space and how it might be able to interact with art.
Yeah,
Sean,
I feel like with the survey, sorry, Celine, having some idea of what the art is, or like what, that's kind of what we were hoping for tonight was some,
I think
some sort of
the two
direction.
suggestions that are in there are pretty broad. I love the idea of reusing the Atlas tree. I think like starting there, and then if you have a better idea about parameters around scale, like you said, no 35-foot tall statue, so like giving some parameters there, but unless the commission has more ideas around themes.
Could the workshop, though, ask the public what they're, I'm curious if there are other ideas that we wouldn't have that are,
Exactly.
that some, yeah.
And then it's also not really going to be blocking anyone's view very much, right? Because of how far back it is. Like, it doesn't really mess with the cars at all.
Well, the car
Right,
view.
but
It's
the
only going to be
resident
the
house.
the
That's gonna be
historic
the
house,
Does
yeah.
that resident
Just
get to
those
chime
people.
in? I mean, do they get to have
Well,
a?
they can come to the workshop.
We're gonna invite them,
Yeah,
we'll,
okay.
just like, the workshop that Brian and, Bethany Celio worked with them extensively on this is, they papered every door, they knocked on everybody's like, hey, what do you want? And then plus, please come to the workshop, so they kinda got double,
Great.
input, and so we'll do that for, everyone that's up there, we'll just put a door hanger and say, please come to the meeting.
Can you clarify how a workshop works?
Yeah.
What the process would be, just in terms of the actual, like, who, is it formal in this manner? Is there somebody facilitating it? Do the folks sit out there and the commission's up here? How does it actually function?
It could go a few different ways. One way that could work, and I would rely on Sean to let me know if it would be okay, but,
I'm gonna say yes.
okay. So like 2 commissioners could represent the commission and be the like narrators of the meeting with a staff member, and then present the project and explain why it's happening and why we're having the meeting, and then let people ask questions and give comment.
It does work better if it's not in this format. If,
Yeah.
we push all this in, take away that, stand up here right in front of the people, have things on the TV screens and on boards, and if all of us, whoever's not presenting, sits in the audience with everybody else and gets to kind of experience that. Of course, if only the vice mayor and somebody else show up, then we can stay like this and invite them to the dais.
That's why maybe like a survey would reach more people because they don't have to show up at a particular time and it's,
I think you would get
yeah.
more from surveys, but you want to combine that with what people bring to the room also.
Or would it be?
What do we want to ask?
Well, would the survey be more helpful after the workshop,
Information, yeah.
where we've already gathered some information from folks in person, and then can help to clarify what we want
Both
to?
the survey and then the workshop.
Yes, but you could do it
So
either
then we could
way.
be like, based on what we heard at the workshop, this is
Right.
going to inform our 3 survey questions.
Okay.
And then in our April meeting, we'd be like, okay, so now we've had the workshop, we got 200 respondents back, and we've evaluated, 5,000 responded back. And
Or 4.
and then we can be like, okay, cool, everyone wants like a giant caveman sitting on the bench.
And
You'll have
and you ask them the survey, and everybody's like,
those
yes, that's what we want.
But the more public input we get,
The
the
better.
better we are.
Yeah.
So,
Especially if you can build, with the survey, if it builds consensus around one or more of the options that you think are viable coming out of the workshop,
yeah.
that would probably be helpful.
Yeah, it'd be cool to kind of mock up even just like a footprint and be like, you know, what's the energy in that before we do an artist call?
We could, that absolutely will do. It, probably before you do the artist call, it's gonna be on its way.
Yeah.
So, because they're gonna start out there in, after Mardi Gras, right?
That's so
Yeah,
great.
so in March.
And like that space is just needing to like keep in mind during, you know, holidays and stuff. It's
Totally.
not just like a random corner. It's like the epicenter of celebration. So,
And it's where all the parades start.
yeah, people will be hanging out there.
For sure.
And there is an issue of getting people up there as well when you're a downtown merchant. So having something that's up there is so exciting. 'Cause there's like, it's hard to get people past a certain point on the
That's
hill.
halfway up the hill.
Yeah.
They get too tired.
Yeah, the cemetery is not a very good draw.
No, but I can tell you that is one crazy, crazy intersection on Victorian Christmas.
Yeah.
And summer nights when trying to direct traffic,
Yeah.
you take your life in your hands. Okay, do you have enough input from us to proceed?
Yeah, so a workshop format at your next meeting. We have a slate of items at your next meeting, including the theme for Champ and that kind of thing. But so, would your preference be to, I'll just say, would it work for you to do the workshop at 5:30? Invite people, we'll put out the press releases, we'll do all the stuff, we'll paper the doors. And then once that portion's done, you can offer for people to stay for the rest of the meeting, but if not, they could leave and you can finish up your
Right.
items. Does that work for all of you? Alternatively, you could call for a special meeting, but, you know, since you're all gonna be here anyway.
That sounds great.
And then we'll try to have the items prioritized a little bit so that if it does end up running long, you could know which ones you would just drop off, because if you get 100 people in the room and they're all giving awesome comment, that's great. We'll, continue the other items to, another.
Yeah.
Do you want support in like presenting it to the 5,000 people who come?
Yeah, should we choose like 2 liaisons or commissioners to sort of run the
Yeah,
meeting?
if you want to determine who that would be, or, volunteers or voluntold.
If it's not improper, I'd like to be one.
Can you explain again what that role would be?
We basically work with you to have a script to explain these things. That Lisa could do it all by herself. She's amazing. The community tends to react a bit better when it's coming from one of you. It's like, this is why we're here. This is the information we need so that we can take this forward, kind of thing. If some of you are willing to do that in partnership with us, we could work with whoever it is on the script and the, who does what pieces.
And is someone on city staff taking the notes in
that?
terms of comments? Is someone on
Yeah.
city
Oh, yeah,
staff?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
a lot of times I'll put up like a white paperboard and take the notes so that everyone in the audience sees that their comments are being like received. And so that it's not just being like said and then forgotten.
Right.
Yeah.
Got it.
And we could also potentially do it, sometimes we'll do it with a spreadsheet on the screen. In this case, we might do it as sticky notes on the PDF of the, what it is. It's like, people liked it here, didn't like it here. We can work through that.
Yeah, and it gives the presenter the opportunity to engage with the audience more, right? And be like, okay, well, I think I see where you're going with that. Like, what about this? Or sort of be able to ask follow-up questions instead of just being in the audience, right?
Shannon, I think you would be great at that.
Do we
too.
have-
I want to do it.
Get it, Shannon, get it.
Get that caveman by it.
Okay. Can-
Real quick, I think what might be helpful in this, and my experience, is to have some guiding principles as to like what might lend itself to this space. So you don't end up with like a Bodie McBoat face type of thing, and also something that's gonna fit on that corner, right? So it's like it kind of confines things a little bit to where when you think about like, what could this be? It has a bit of guardrails. It doesn't
Yeah.
need to be so narrow, but it also isn't just whatever, where you get people coming and giving feedback, and then you're like, we're not really gonna take that. So then you're like, why'd I come and give all this feedback for nothing?
Yeah, I would totally agree with that.
Yeah.
Because art, sometimes people are afraid of change, and that's a place that's sort of iconic, I guess, if you were looking up the street or if you've lived there your whole life or something. So having some sort of idea of, we're looking at these options, just to kind of give a framework.
I love provocative art, but this is not the site for it. Right?
Yeah, so something like that I think would really help to like define, it's like, this is one of the most iconic corners in Nevada City, and it's like, to your point you mentioned earlier, it's like, we don't want another mining element, but we also, it needs some piece, it needs to like represent this, or be organic, or something, like, just a little framework, and that's something that maybe could come out of the initial workshop.
Something that doesn't detract from the
Yeah,
historic
that-
house. That's-
Yeah, as a part of this workshop, you guys are hashing these things out and then asking for feedback after. So I guess it depends on how you want to frame that in a little bit. It could either be done before the workshop, at the workshop, but just something. So to your point, when you put the survey out, you're putting out framework and also great ideas that have come along, but you're looking for other feedback.
So if there's no objection from the commission, Shannon and I, would that be okay with you?
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. I just wonder if we want to tap another person to be part of like a subcommittee that would be empowered to like take the feedback from the workshop and pitch a survey based on what we heard. So, I mean, alternatively, we're coming back in April, thinking about it again, maybe agreeing on survey, so. Does that make sense?
Like aside from staff taking notes or on top of
Yeah, I guess I'm just wondering like how we take what we hear in March and like digest it
Yeah.
into something next.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Then I think we would need to work with.
Because that's
Yeah, like
also
I
so
could
much
draft
for you
it
guys to
and
do.
say, okay, based on what we heard, here's what I'm thinking for the survey. And then one of you could review that and give
I'm
any
happy
feedback.
to help support that.
Okay.
Because we'd want that survey to go
Yeah.
out probably more quickly than the next,
Yeah.
wait for another meeting a month later, right? Just to keep
That's
it
what I
fresh.
would recommend, is that we don't like, kind of like relitigate like what we heard in the workshop, that we trust what's being like pulled down from staff, and a couple people are empowered to sign off on survey stuff. So maybe Kathy and I are presenting, but then maybe Mira and Jonah or
I think
And
you kind of have
Nakai
to be
or
in the
what-
workshop, though, to pull to,
Well, aren't we all, isn't that
we're all gonna
happening?
be
Yeah, it's
here,
our
just
meeting.
you and I are doing the show.
but they're, okay.
And we as commissioners, if we're in the audience, we can comment as well, right?
Yeah.
Bring
All right.
that.
Of course.
It's an open
Well,
public
yeah.
hearing, yeah,
Yeah.
meeting.
I figured out why I thought Lisa put a picture of the bench. There's public comment at the back of your packet, and there's a bench that it's a bench with a statue of Mark Twain sitting on the bench. That came from Miriam as
The
a.
original cave.
Right.
It's actually a statue of me when I used to have hair, so nice shoes.
And put down in public comment.
So do you have enough comments
Dude, look
from
how
us
good
tonight
he
to
looks.
know where we're going
That's what
with
I'm
this?
talking about. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Oh.
Can we talk about that public comment now, or we're waiting on it? We're
Wait,
not allowed
we
to
still
comment
have
on
other-
the.
We're going to public comment.
I can't believe, who is this person?
We're just-
Miriam.
Miriam
dude.
Morris,
Her-
who did the.
She did the planters on our.
Mosaics on
We're
our
on.
But we're not on public, we're
Okay,
not
sorry,
on
sorry.
correspondence
I'm sorry.
yet.
But that public comment was specific to this project, so that's. she was suggesting that that might be an opportunity for art in the space that's, I think,
Okay.
paraphrasing, less controversial than previous statue that was gonna go in the area.
The sergeant with, yeah. Ellen kind of left out, yeah. So you have enough comment, we can move on?
You good, Lisa?
Do you want to talk about the public comment?
I thought we weren't there yet.
We're there. Is
Do
there
we,
any-
what about,
Don't we have to do
okay,
our?
we doing public comment before we do the selection of the chair and vice chair, or?
Well, public comment on this item, right?
Oh,
So you're
was
saying
this
that the,
specifically?
yeah, the letter, the emails that are in public comment are specifically about the why.
Well-
specifically for this.
This isn't about the why.
Yes,
I mean, it's-
Second one.
it is.
Do you have this
My,
one?
I don't think I saw it.
From
I've got the one
So-
that's about
So
Yeah.
if
art
you,
in the historical
to
district.
talk about something in public
Wait,
comment, it has to
this
be related to the agenda item that we're talking about. So that's the one that talks about this item is, you know, what art can be done there. But
Okay.
if you wanted to talk about other public comment that's not
I
agendized, we
have
can't
that.
do that unless we bring it back.
That might be, no, I don't have that at all.
It's in,
It's just
It's on
at
here.
the very
The very,
bottom,
very bottom.
very bottom.
Not on my screen.
On the other tab.
Yeah,
Oh, here, I'll bring you this one.
that's okay, I can look off of it.
All right, so would you like to go to the next item?
Down.
oh.
Are we going to comment on that item? Or we commented enough?
Oh.
So this is her written,
On whatever it is,
and then
okay,
that's a picture of Ellen Sargent, and then that's her.
okay. So this was specifically for the why. So could we just take this public comment and, or, you know, and put it into the packet for?
It is, that's what that is.
I know, but into what we're going to be discussing at the workshop, it would be a part of what would
If you wanted to
be
suggest that, we
given out,
could.
I mean, you know, that goes out ahead of time, that we've already received some public comment on it, and here's what it is.
But wouldn't this be the first public comment on this agenda item? Because she just emailed it in as a public comment, right? Isn't that
Yeah,
what this
but
is?
Shannon also mentioned the same things. I mean, however you take this, it's like, it could be an idea that came from this commission before she
Yeah.
saw the public comment, so.
And hopefully Miriam will attend the workshop.
Yeah, we should encourage Mary
Yeah.
to
We should
attend
make
the
sure
workshop.
she'll get an invitation to it.
You wanted me to pass that back to him?
You can certainly send it to her.
So
Shannon.
is there anything more on
I think we have.
This item.
We need on that,
public?
and
Thank you
we'll,
for bringing that up. It's not in my packet and not on
Oh.
my screen, so I wasn't aware of it.
Oh, sorry about that.
No worries.
So we'll go to item number, well, the other comment, the comments that were in there, that's a different thing, and we don't, we receive it and don't comment on it, right?
yeah, public comment, you don't respond to.
Right,
Respond to.
okay. Could I bring up the other, I would like to, I don't know if all of you received, but I received an email, and I know that Commissioner Tudor did, because her name was on it, and I believe
I
Commissioner
did.
Clark.
I don't know
I
if
just want
that's
to bring it to,
appropriate
I just
for-
want to put it into the agenda packet, put it on for public, that the
Yeah, just
public
forward
can
it
see.
to
It's-
Lisa or I, and we put it in
Yeah.
the.
From
public
a
comment.
citizen, former citizen, Judith Lowry, a comment about an art show in Reno. So, her retrospective. So that will be, you can go on, I'm forwarding it to the city manager to attach to the agenda, because I'm not sure if it was submitted for tonight's meeting or just in general. It came to me, and I don't know.
If any of you ever get sent something that says, for public comment, you can just forward it to us, and we'll,
So I'm not sure what the
Process it.
background is on it, but I wanted to forward it to the city manager. He will attach it, and you can go on and read it, or the public can go on and read it. So with that, those items being taken care of, we're at item number 5, which is selection of a chair and vice chair for the commission for 2025?
So when you initially formed, your first meeting was hosted by, were you the vice mayor then? You weren't the vice mayor yet. At the time, Mayor Fernandez and Councilmember Klein, as the vibrancy committee, that was the impetus for the formation of this commission. And at that first meeting, you selected your folks. It was actually your second meeting when you, Kathy and Celine became the chair and the vice chair. Similarly tonight, this last item on your agenda, so ideally you would select a chair and vice chair, and that person would take the seat, or those two people would take the seat at the next meeting. The municipal code requires that you appoint a chair and vice chair each year. It does not require that they be new people, so you can select amongst yourselves. You could appoint somebody new, you could rotate the chair, the vice chair to the chair, you could select entirely new people. You're not subject to the same requirements that the council has, where the vice mayor becomes the mayor and then the next person becomes the vice mayor. So, it's simple, whatever preference would be. I think last time we were here, everyone was a little bit leery of, I don't know how horrible this meeting's gonna be for, the next year. I think it's been a pretty fun ride, and thank you for all your efforts in making already artsy Nevada City a little more cool. But we would ask that you, in any way you want to, say who might be interested in being the chair and vice chair, and then motion and second to appoint those people.
Can we just make comments?
Of course. You
Okay.
can.
I think that, I like the idea of how it's been in some other settings where, president and vice president becomes president. I think that makes sense, but I also really like the idea of potentially just being like completely fresh and new. So it's 1 year of president and vice president, and then there's two new people taking that on, because it doesn't, with the chamber, it kind of makes sense because there are things that you're supposed to be sort of learning along the way. And that it's helpful for the vice president to move into that role, but in my sense of it here is that it could be any commissioner doesn't really need to have been like spending a year preparing to take on the role of chair of the Public Arts Commission. So that's just that would be my preference. I know, and you guys might all have.
Are you saying that you don't want to be chair?
Well, no, so I'm saying that that would be my second, like, that's the traditional way of doing it. If we were to do it, the other way with two new folks, then I think, I'd be happy to nominate Shannon to be chair.
As well.
And,
Same.
and then anybody else can take on comments from here. I said my part.
Yeah, I think I totally see that point of view, and I think we have the luxury of like not needing to be super prescriptive, and we don't need to do the same thing in 2026 that we do in 25 and do in 24. We are a fairly green crew, and it's been super amazing to have you as chair, Kathy, and kind of help us like understand the lay of the land, because I think for many of us it's our first public thing. I was going to propose that you were chair, and I was going to,
Take nomination as vice chair.
And yeah, I think, for us also, it's kind of a capacity issue, like who has space and time to do it, and looking down the barrel of the year.
Are we assuming that we're all here too? We don't have.
We're here forever.
We're here forever, right? We don't make any, I don't know, it's different in that, to your point, like, we don't know how long, it's a 4-year thing when these guys are in, but what is?
It's a
You're
4-year
4
thing.
years
It's a
also.
4-year thing.
Oh, are we?
Except for Jonas, who's 2 years, that can be renewed for an additional 2 years.
Oh, yeah.
The guy is like, what?
What?
Change my mind.
Well, yeah, and I would be happy with that also.
I just feel like it works so well having a fresh face. I feel like that would work so well, especially for it being public art, so that it's not just, like you were saying, the same stuff every year coming out, where it's, so if it just keeps switching up, then. I feel like it'd be more diverse.
Or we switch 50%, which is switching up to, so.
So it sounds like right now we have 2 nominations. We have one saying change it completely, and you said Shannon. And then we have Shannon saying kind of halfway, Celine, and then you as vice chair. Any other?
I'd personally support either option.
I don't have a
Well-
preference either.
Somebody roll out with
Shannon, are you saying you
motion,
don't
and
want
we're going to
to
go
be
with
Do
it.
you not want to be, because I would
Yeah.
vote for you as chair and then
That's-
probably Mira as vice.
I don't want to be.
You don't want to
vice
be
chair.
vice
I'll take it next year, okay?
Yeah.
I'm a full please.
Okay.
All right, so we're voting this meeting on who's doing it next year.
So we're succession planning.
Oh, that's
Right.
right.
Meeting for the
Perfect.
next 4 years.
But Shannon, do you want to? Because I heard you say you didn't. Did you say you didn't want to?
No, I said that it was, I am not opposed to the idea of it being a non-traditional way. I think there's benefits to both, right? Like having that go from vice chair to chair and a new vice chair who potentially doesn't have to, goes to chair. There is a benefit to that, but it can be completely,
Yeah, my preference would be to assume vice chair, just based on wanting to observe more.
So, am I hearing that in the form of a motion that you would move that Celine would be
Yeah.
chair and you would be vice chair for the year 2025?
That.
Okay.
That.
So we have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second? And Jonas has seconded. So could you call a roll call vote?
Yes. Commissioner Arianes,
Aye.
Commissioner Schwartz,
Yes.
Commissioner Harney,
Yes.
Commissioner Clark,
Aye.
Vice Chair Negrete,
Yes.
and Chair Wilcox Barnes.
Aye. Okay.
Great.
So, do I finish this meeting, or do we switch right now?
Yeah, you finish this meeting.
Musical chairs tonight. Okay, we're going to move on, and thank you both for taking on new leadership. And
do I have to bake cookies?
Yes.
And they're gonna be compared to Kathy's.
Christmas presents.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so we are at the point in the agenda where we have commissioner and staff liaison reports. And do we have any staff before the commissioner reports start?
Mine would just be a reminder, be thinking about the theme for the gallery for next month, because we haven't talked about it much, and I'd love to hear your ideas for that, for the theme.
Selection is next meeting.
Just the theme next meeting.
And should we email you our possible suggested themes so people have it ahead?
You're welcome to,
You can.
and then, for Brown Act purposes, we can't share them with all of you, but what we could do is if you give us ideas that you have, we could post them in the staff report and the agenda packet, so the
Yeah.
Friday before your meeting, you would be able to see what
So
everyone
we
else
could-
put in. It won't have your,
So we're not.
Shannon said this, it'll
I
just, it'll be
mean, But
a,
we're not coming in cold turkey
right,
going, oh,
then
we
you'd
gotta
have
have a theme.
you'd have the collective input of everyone that gave it
Okay.
to Lisa of what you think you
Would,
might want to consider.
like, planning commission, city council want to be included in participating in that, or like just
In-
open up the floor for them too, or does that complicate things?
It definitely complicates
Great, I
things with
hate
the number
that.
of meetings, but I appreciate that you did your first one on the mayor's, and council's proclamation of the year of the neighborhood. I think from here on out, it's a good one to take into consideration that we'll have a new mayor in July, and he may have a, proclamation for a year of the something, and you might want to consider that at a future one. But this one is pretty wide open.
It will be year of the something.
Year of the something.
And, yeah, District 1, Heidi Hall just declared Year of the Youth for her.
Yes.
Oh, really?
For
Cool.
her
That
chair
would
of the
be
board,
That would be
so
really cool.
Really fun.
alignment with
It's a lot of pictures
those
of
other
small
guys.
people.
Just, yeah, that,
Yeah.
just kid pictures of kids.
The other thing to think about with your thoughts on theme is that while most of our stuff is conducive to flat work or not too overly dimensional, like the masks work well, we do have the hanging space. And it doesn't have to be paintings or drawings. It could be poetry or, written work or, other things that can be hung on walls or suspended. So, the theme doesn't have to be exclusively to the, to the graphic style of art, so.
Yeah, I also had a photographer ask if they could do an exhibit for like camera club members. So the theme could be like photography or oil paintings or something in.
Photography of
yeah.
oil paintings.
Or that.
Haiku.
That would be amazing.
So, any other staff reports? I have a commissioner. Yeah. Oh, yes, I should have.
I know you really talked about these amazing cookies. Thank you so much for bringing those to a meeting like this.
You're welcome. And the cookie selection tonight, if you didn't hear, is our lemon crinkle cookies and chocolate chip pecan blondies. Do your best to empty the plate before we leave, but if we don't, then staff will take it and somewhere back in to the depths of City Hall and
It's greatly appreciated.
go away. So,
Also, sorry, and say that Sean and Lon have been working super hard on updating the strategic plan, which includes goals for strategic initiatives, and I encourage you to look at those and just sort of engage with it and see the value of that work and how it comes through with this commission. So, when is the date of adoption? That's going to be in March?
12th, it'll be on the February 12th agenda for all of the updates that have come from the committee so far, so you could just read through the document at the back of that one and see what the changes are if you want to shortcut it. But that won't be adopted next week, it'll just be updates.
Got it.
But that is the instrument that the community provided input on, the council adopted, that made our arts ordinance and made this commission possible. And, that all came from the community saying, this is the things that we want. And thankfully, the council said everything that generally the community wants, we're willing to put into a strategic plan. Because usually the council goes, that all sounds good, we'll cut off this piece and that piece and that piece. And, but they pretty much took everything that was consensus in any fashion, so it's wonderful.
So I have a couple of things. First, I would like to thank the commission for putting up with me as chairman for the year. We were all finding our way, and I think that we all bring our separate strengths and weaknesses to the table, and so collaboratively we've worked together really well, kind of getting our first footing through the year. I'd also like to thank Vice Mayor Klein for being so faithful in attending the meetings. If you weren't here, we'd be just talking to ourselves all the time. Maybe out in TV land, somebody's tuning in, but for the most part, it really is nice to look out and see somebody paying attention to what we're doing. And then I have an idea, as we're supposed to kind of throw ideas out, maybe for some public art. And there's a couple of places around town, but the place that kind of hit me, and I've talked it over with the city manager just a little bit, is I don't know if any of you are familiar with the wall of I Love You artwork in Montmartre, Paris, and it's and I think we don't want to do the wall of I Love You, but I was thinking along, like maybe that big expansive wall that's on Reward Street as you're going to St. Canice Center, right across from College of Ayurveda, or somewhere. We could do a wall of peace or something in different languages. And the I Love You is like, I love you in 250 different languages or 300. And we could do the wall of peace in different languages or something. And it takes somebody with an artistic eye would need to know how we go about it, but, whether it would be tiles that people would make. We would ask them to make, and then they would be put on. We have to check into whether that is a city retaining wall or whether it belongs to the meditation center, but they may be open to the idea of dressing up that wall with something beautiful and something that maybe right now in this, we could use a little piece. I think all of us have thought of that, come together. So that's just a thought. I want to throw it out there so we can think about it, maybe place it on another agenda or whatever. And I think that's, I'll have another proposal that'll be coming in March or April that we'll be asking for the commission's help on it. So
I think that's on the March agenda, the pumpkins?
yes.
Yeah, March agenda.
I was curious about adding something to the agenda for next month. Is it better that I email the two of you or bring it up now, or?
Either way.
What's the best? Okay, now I'm just curious about incorporating or representing the Grass Valley, Nevada City Cultural District in more ways, making that more visible in our work as a public arts commission. I feel like it's a really special designation. There's only 14 in California, and I think it would benefit the Arts Commission in the city to have that more visible. And I wish Eliza was here to talk more about that, but I'm sure she'll have input if we could have it as just a little short discussion item, or maybe even like other partnering organizations that can bolster the work that we're doing here.
Eliza will be at the council on February 26th to talk about the survey that the Arts Council will be releasing. It might have already got released. So, yeah, I'm sure she can, in March, when we meet, March 4th. We could.
Did you guys see the Muse magazine?
The new one.
The newest
Yeah,
one?
the print isn't out, but the digital is. I'll send that to the group. It's really beautiful. Yeah, and they're having a reception. I think they already did the Truckee one last weekend, and then the one for Grass Valley is in March sometime. I'll include that in the email. It's at the Center for the Arts.
Go ahead. I just have one question about this other public comment that we received. And I know we're not supposed to respond. I know that the Historic District Ordinance is not part of our commission's purview, but can we send it along to the correct channels? Or if we're interested in supporting that shift, how do we go about that? Or we just ignore it or nothing?
Yeah, I mean, you can't discuss it in the ordinance itself is the ordinance, so, yeah, if you.
I'm just wondering if that person, do you direct it to the proper channels if it's coming to us, but we don't really have any power to do anything about that?
No, I mean, it's a public comment to this commission,
Okay.
And I mean, we get public comments on a variety of things to a variety of bodies, but.
Didn't you say there's something written in, doesn't the ordinance get revisited after a certain period of time?
It doesn't, there's nothing in there that compels that, but.
Okay. I thought I had asked you something about that a meeting or so ago about potential changes. Maybe you just said, well, let's have it for at least a year or year and a half before we.
There was discussion about that when the council adopted the ordinance of, should it be, do we revisit in a year? How do we look at those, all that kind of stuff. We certainly could have an item for you in the future that was a year in review of the commission and, kind of like lessons learned and, your thoughts on where you're going or what things would be better enable art or, or what things are in the way of things. And so you could, in that discussion, certainly have, you could say this ordinance is in the way or this ordinance is great and should never change or,
And if there were things we wanted to have changed, we could voice our thoughts about that, but it would then be sent to the city council to talk about or hear about? I mean, how, would it go beyond our conversation here?
Nothing directly. I mean, that's not, it's not something that goes on the council agenda because, you're a community member like anybody else, and you get the voice of a community member. You're welcome to, provide input, but, you don't get special access to compel the council to look at things,
Well, that's what I'm
as
asking,
ours.
whether the Arts Commission has that ability to say if we decided that we wanted to talk about an amendment to the ordinance, I don't know if that's the right language, but can we do that? Or you're saying we would need to as individuals?
It wouldn't be appropriate for you to talk about amending the ordinance because it's not something that's within your purview. It would alternatively, I think, get you to the same resolution to, like what I said, to evaluate art and the implementation of art in the city as you see it, having been on the commission, and have recommendations of things that, if it was, hey, the process of, from the Arts Commission to the Planning Commission could be improved with, XYZ, or, art should not be allowed in Seven Hills, but should be allowed in the Historic District, or something like that, as a recommendation to improve your process. That is the kind of, I know it's maybe a difference without, a distinction without a difference, but it's, one is you getting more voice as a community member, and the other is you exercising your responsibility as public arts commissioners to advise the council on all things arts in the community. Does that make sense?
So if there was an item to come forward as like the year in the review and how they see the art being supported by the work of the commission and things like that, then where would it go from there? It would go, the commission would comment and make a motion for a recommendation to the council, but then how would it get agendized for the council?
We would just transmit the recommendation to the council, and they could decide if they wanted to have an item or not.
Okay.
But what you couldn't have is an item in front of you that was, we want to talk about changing an ordinance, because that's not.
Yeah.
Unless it was referred to you from the council, that specific item would be.
How would we make that recommendation without discussing it as a whole, that it would require an amendment to the Historical District Ordinance 338? I mean, I don't understand how we could send them something we want them to consider changing an ordinance that we haven't discussed, if it's not in our purview to suggest changing an ordinance.
It's more of like reporting, right? It's reporting and recommendations. It's not necessarily like, we want to change the ordinance, right? It's, you guys have been doing the work and reporting on that and providing a recommendation to the council.
Yeah, we
It's an
have to have a
update.
discussion as a commission as a whole and each give our,
Yeah, and if there wasn't
Recommendation.
consensus amongst the group on a recommendation, then it wouldn't go to the council. But if there was consensus among the group, then that recommendation would go to the council.
Consensus being defined as?
A
Five.
vote,
Every-
a motion and a second for recommendations to go to the council. That's how anything would, something like that would be.
And then you have to do it a year in review, because that's the only way that you can do it properly, right?
It's not the only, there's
Or like-
multiple instruments, so if, yeah.
do we have any other commissioner reports or any other items to talk about tonight?
Pretty cool event tomorrow happening at the Rood Center. We are not strangers here, celebrating Black History Month. African American histories in rural California. Unprecedented, if you ask me. I never seen anything like this happening here. It's tomorrow at 4:30 p.m. This is the Nevada County Arts Council in partnership with the County of Nevada. And it is It is cool photographs and art celebrating Black history in the area. So
Looks really amazing.
it looks
Are
so
you going?
cool.
Is that 4:30?
I'll be at work. I'll
Oh,
just
are you gonna go
bop on
afterwards?
down. Yeah. 4:30. Yeah, 4:30 to 6:30, I believe,
At the Root Center?
at the Rood Center.
That's through the Arts Council's Art in Public Spaces.
Yeah, really cool.
Any
And
other?
shout out to Pascal, who watches our, from Ubinet, who watches these meetings from home. So if you're wondering if people are watching you, they are always watching you. So she said Ubinet is happy to get the word out about a workshop, host a survey, or whatever the commission
Awesome.
needs, so.
Wonderful. Yay.
Pascal's the weather person, right?
She's a Ubinet writer.
Oh, okay.
The
Reduced to a
owner, creator, innovator.
She's gonna love it.
I just know I've heard her voice.
No more
Many-
commissioner reports. I'll entertain a motion and a second to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
I second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Bye.
We're adjourned.